Sounds like a jet plane's firing up, and I guess that's Ty's signal for us to go.
It's definitely me over here, by the way. I don't.
That
My
was
computer fan has been
wild.
wonky,
Take,
fellas.
Josh is cleared for liftoff.
That's a jet fan,
I
brother.
got echo
Let's see.
cancellation on. I thought it counted for that.
That's wild. Victory Monday. We're going to do this. I don't even know what we're titling this episode. I forgot what I wrote, but we don't have time. We got to get right into it. I'm your host. My name doesn't matter. The guy to my left, Josh Saffron. What's up, pal?
Dude, what's up, man? We're 3-0. You know what? Let's just get into it for me to do my victory lap. What's up, Max?
Vibes are high, Josh. Vibes are high, and deservedly so. I thought this would have been a trap game if there ever was one. I really do.
There's plenty coming up.
Sure.
Hey, I'm just saying that's the way the NFL schedule works out. Let's do it. Let's jump right into it. Main event. Are the Eagles the best team in the NFC? No sugarcoating, none of my long-winded expertise that I usually bullshit with. Are the Eagles the best team in the NFC? Max, I'm not giving Josh the satisfaction to go at first.
Oh, man. I was really hoping you could give this to Josh first. So I could
no shot, dude.
I'm going to say at this exact moment in time, they are. They have to be, right?
They have to be, man.
They have to be. They've looked consistently impressive on both sides of the ball. They haven't played a total cakewalk schedule. We're only 3 games in. There's time for the cakewalk to come through. There's still plenty of time for the cakewalk to come through. But I think as of right now, based on what I've seen, the Eagles are executing on offense, more so on offense, but also on defense at a higher level than pretty much every other team in the NFC. I think you can make arguments for single sides of the balls for other teams. I think that if you're looking at the whole picture, the grand scheme of things, all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams, I think you'd have a pretty damn hard time convincing me the Eagles aren't the best the NFC has to offer as of September 26th at 7:09 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, man. I'll pick it up, man. I'll just pick it right up right there because there's not much more to say other than the fact that, like, it's a fact. Like, it's a fact that right now the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. They have dominated, man. They've just straight up dominated their 3 games. Granted, not against, like, the best opponents, but, like, Banners, we all got respect for your Vikings over here. I picked the Vikings win, and we don't have to go back in time and rehash and, dance on your grave even more than I'm sure it's already been danced on. You look around the NFC, man, who else is there? Genuinely. Like, by the end of the season, by the end of the season, I don't know what we'll be saying, right? But by week 3, right? And certainly there's so many overreactions that to be had through 3 weeks. I just don't understand who you can even make a case for. You saw what happened with the Buccaneers yesterday. And I mean, sure, they were down like two receivers, but the way that team's assembled, I feel like you can just assume Godwin's going to be in and out of the lineup. Mike Evans has his hot streaks, and the bottom line is, Father Time is eventually catching up to Tom Brady. Look at the Packers. Look, I think the 3 of us might have been a little too low on the Packers coming into this season because it was more fun to be low on the Packers.
I still think the Packers are maybe the claims of them not winning their division will be overblown. But I'm still not going to. The Packers have not shown me enough offensively in 3 weeks to make me think my overall take was wrong.
I'm with you on that. I was looking at schedules today, preparing for this episode, just like looking at schedules of like, okay, how many games will this team win? The Packers are going to win more games than they lose. Like, I don't mean literally they'll be over 500, but like they're going to be the Packers. They're probably going to get 11 to 12 wins this year. The Bucs, on the other hand, that their defense is really good. That running game is just nowhere near as good as I thought it would be this year. Like, Max, you said it. There's not much more to say. When you expand it to the whole NFL, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Eagles are the number 1 team in the NFL, but I'll tell you they're top 3. And I'll tell you by the end of the year, they can be the number 1 team in the NFL. I'm not getting ahead of myself. But Banners, look, you're the Vikings fan, man. You're the non-Eagles fan here.
Points of
I
reason.
think even you have to say they're the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, I just did a look around. I mean,
and part of it is by default, right? But like, come on.
I think the smaller part of it is by default though, because I mean, I'm looking at this NFC, man. It is. I mean, we thought it would be worse than the AFC, but like this NFC is very top heavy, and when I mean very top heavy, I mean there's probably the Eagles and the Rams are not the same team they were last year. And then there's teams like the Packers, the Vikings, and the Buccaneers, and then there's pretty much nobody.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild to think about. I mean, San Francisco looks like a bad team. The New York Giants are somehow 2-0. They're the only other undefeated team in the NFC.
They're
The
so
Cardinals.
bad, too.
The Cardinals are sitting at dead last in the NFC with a negative 25 point differential and a 1-2 record behind Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray.
Oh, so nice when you say it like that, Banners. Oh, it's so
like
nice.
it is.
He's really
This
bad.
is a bad football
Frauds,
conference.
Josh,
Meanwhile, I look over at the AFC and the Buffalo Bills are the 7th ranked team in the AFC after yesterday between
According to who?
tiebreakers,
According to what?
tiebreakers, and
overall
point differential.
standings, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's overall standings for the conference.
Gotcha.
Cincinnati Bengals are.
Can I cut you off right there?
Yeah,
it
please.
is incredible to think that the Denver Broncos and the Buffalo Bills are both 2-1 through 3 weeks.
Seriously,
Crazy.
So to get back to the original question, yeah, it's. I mean, like I said, there might even be 3 tiers in the NFC because the Eagles are. I tried to place the Eagles and the Rams in their own category, but the Rams are not the same team they were last year. So it might be a 3-tier category in the NFC, being the Eagles, then the Rams, and then the 3 of the Buccaneers, Packers, and Vikings. So yeah, it's a pretty runaway answer, yes, right now.
Damn,
and let's make no bones about it. It's not easy to dominate like they did 2 weeks in the NFL. That doesn't usually happen, given any opponent. Just what it is. So yeah, right now, this Eagles team with a plus 36 point differential, which is 3rd in the NFL. Yeah. Best team in the NFL. Or best team in the NFC. Sorry. Getting ahead of myself.
Ahead of them in point differential, just out of curiosity.
They are a plus 36.
The Chiefs whack the Cardinals.
Could be even higher, man. Could
They're
be even
plus
higher.
36,
That's the crazy thing, too.
Well, you guys are going to love this. Number 1 plus 53 is the Buffalo Bills. Give me a second guess as to who you think the second team is.
I got
5. Yeah, all right. The team you're playing next and the returning coach, the Jacksonville Jaguars,
of
at
course,
a plus 46.
Damn, I would not have. I would have
Jaguars are playing team football here, boys.
Yeah.
Kevin's all over that in the chat.
Not to get too far away from the original point. Yes, I think it's a runaway answer right now that the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. It's what it is, and we're going to talk about why that is. So let's talk about how they can move up those rankings or why they might fall farther down. Is there something concerning about not scoring in the second half back-to-back weeks? So what we've seen is a topic for discussion, whether it's the team coasting because they don't have to, or is it halftime adjustments? Is it any number of things that could lead to a team that looks so explosive in the first half of 2 straight games? What's up with the lack of production in the second half? And this is where I'm going to go to Josh Safford first because I kind of want the positive spin here. So what's up with these second halves, my man?
Nothing's up with these second halves, man. Nothing. I don't think there is anything that is really a cause for concern. Because after the Vikings game, and after that blocked field goal, I got a little nervous, right? I think we all got a little bit nervous after that blocked field goal. But aside from that blocked field goal, the rest of that game, there's been no need to score in the second half. To me, this is just so simple. It's a simple matter of why try to reinvent the wheel? We go up. We put our hands, like you put your foot on the throat of the other team's opponent, so you don't let them back into the game. The only thing was that that interception that bounced off of Ken Gainwell's chest. It is just the most ultra conservative, ultra vanilla. Keep that clock moving. Don't turn the ball over and pin the other team back for our dominant defense to just stop them. If this Eagles team has to score in the second half, I've got nothing but confidence that they will score in the second half. Like, I'm not saying that they're trying not to score, but they're not trying to score. Like, when they get the ball in the second half, scoring is like priority number 3. Priority number 1 is don't turn the ball over. Priority number 2 is take time off the clock. Priority number 3 is score maybe if we get into position. But that is not what we're trying to do. They're trying to win football games. This isn't college football where you go up in the rankings for winning by 30 instead of 10. No, a W is a W, and I think this team knows it. Like, I think if you look at this team's turnover differential also, That really tells the story. I don't have the number in front of me, but we've watched the games. They haven't turned the ball over. They forced a lot of turnovers. That's what I think is their prime priority. And listen, I know there are some people, like, on paper it's a cause for concern, but watching these games, they don't need to score at all, man. So I think next week will be a bigger test. Honestly, I really do. I think they will have to score in the second half, and I think they will score in the second half. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm just so not concerned at all, man.
Max, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's always natural to be a little concerned when it has been a consistent thing in all three games, really. I mean, the second half scoring has been down, but Josh is right. Like the Eagles are very clearly playing to just make sure they're not blowing the game. Like if you're watching these games, like I'll be straight up honest with you guys, I turned off this Eagles Commanders game with 5.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter because I had seen all I needed to see at that point, right? Like I was getting quite literally bored of watching the game. That was before the Commanders had shown any signs of life really on offense. They've shown a little bit in the fourth quarter, but I knew that game was done and dusted. I knew the Eagles didn't have to score anymore in that game, and I knew I wouldn't have to worry about them. Sure, I was still checking on my phone and everything, but hand up, I have no problem admitting to you guys that I was so confident in this Eagles team and the way that they're playing. I flipped the red zone full time with 5.5 minutes left to the game. And no issues in admitting that. And that all is due to the fact that I'm confident in this team as a whole, right? Like, sure, they're doing all their damage in the first half. I do agree with Josh that next week there's just no way you can play 4 games in the NFL, not score more than what they score. Like I think 14 points in the Detroit game in the second half,
maybe,
and then it's been under 20 points total in the second half through 3 games. And when you put it like that, it has to be a little bit worrying to you. So I think they'll be met with that challenge next week, and I expect them to succeed. Like I haven't seen anything through the first 2. I mean, really through 4.5 halves of football this year. A little hard to keep up with the numbers there.
Right.
But through about 4.5 halves of football this year, I haven't seen anything that makes me think if the clock says 8:37 left with the first quarter next to it, or if it says 8:37 left with the fourth quarter next to it, I have no issues. I have no issues with them. I think if we ever get, eventually at some point we're going to get to a stage where they're going to be down with 2 minutes to play and they're going to have to throw the ball with no reservations, and it's not going to be any secret to it. And we'll reassess when we get there. But until then, I'm not going to fault them for being so dominant in the first half. They're able to play mindless, mind-numbing, boring Big Ten football in the second half to close out games.
That's exactly what it is.
It is.
So I think this is like only I mean, I'm not going to beat a dead horse with the Jonathan Gannon, and actually he didn't. Only one of the sacks on this weekend versus the Commanders was when they sent more than 4 rushers. So he didn't have to do one of 9 sacks. He didn't have to do much. I don't want to beat the Jonathan Gannon passive horse again. I think the only 2 gripes that I have with this Eagles team right now is special teams. The special teams unit as a whole.
Yeah, they're bad.
Not great. I think that's a different conversation. But the other one would be this, I don't want to call it ineffectiveness, but I guess just like disinterest in second halves of football games, it kind of feels like, because with the exception of the Detroit game, that was a hard-fought second half. The Vikings game, it's 3 different case studies because no game was like the other. The Vikings game, Jalen Hurts still had, like, as incredible a game as he had, there were throws and plays that he still left out on the field, which tells you how much better of a game he even still could have had, which is something crazy. And that game was there were still most of the third quarter, if not a little bit into the fourth quarter, where it kind of felt like it could be somewhat of a game before it just absolutely ran away from it. And then the Commanders game, there wasn't any pushback from the start of the middle way through the second quarter. You know what I mean? So there's it's none of the 3 games are like each other. So like,
I have a quick question for Josh.
Yeah. Okay.
I had plans the night of the Eagles Vikings game, right? I was not able to watch that game for the most part.
How was the taping? I'm sorry to interrupt. How was the taping?
It was awesome. It was really, really hilarious. And those guys were awesome to see live. They always, the crew of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That's where I was at. Rob McElhenney, who's one of the creators from Philly.
By the way, crazy move from a Philly show to schedule their Philly night.
Oh, that's the thing. They scheduled them months before the NFL released their
such
thing.
A shame.
But they had it set up really well. They were like, they would just interrupt the show when they scored a touchdown. They had a Merrill Reese audio clip over an Eagles graphic on the screen behind them. every time they did that, Rob led an Eagles chant. It was awesome. It really was really cool. It was like to miss an Eagles game. It was like one of the coolest things you could have done because I was still involved with the Eagles game, but I wasn't watching it, so I didn't really have that sense of connection, which is what I was going to ask Josh. Did you feel like it was going to be one of those games where the Eagles, because they didn't take advantage of being able to put the Vikings to sleep, like they were up, but they never really put they never really did the kill shot in the second half. So I wanted to ask, as someone who was just following it on the phone and drunkenly chanting Eagles with 3,500 other people, I didn't really ever have worries about that game because there was a lot of good vibes. So
Josh,
I don't know, watching it.
Let's let the Vikings fan weigh in here.
Yeah,
let me see if you agree with this. It always felt like it was one step away from being one step away.
Yep.
Okay.
Like I said, that when Sipos chasing whoever that was down was the only time I was nervous, and was followed up immediately by an interception. Like there was one moment where it was like, oh no, this could be a game. Boom, interception. Like that. It was like probably 120 real life seconds where it didn't feel good, and that was it. And other than that, I was on my phone. It was Twitter fingers all night. The party was beginning. So, I mean, Banners, Max. It sounds like neither of you have watched a ton of either game, if I'm not mistaken.
I watched all the Commanders game. I was heavily invested in the Commanders game until I got to the point where I'm just like, I have more important things to do, like watch close games on Red Zone, and watch Carson Wentz finally try and break 100 yards passing with a half a quarter to play.
So, everyone, like that Monday night game was when all the haters, all the doubters, unlike myself, finally admitted that Jalen Hurts was a good NFL quarterback, and everyone said that was his best game. And I just dawned on me right now, was the game yesterday even better for Jalen Hurts?
I would say, yeah.
I would say it's because I didn't get to watch the Vikings games. He made some excellent throws. I think that 2-minute drill at the end of the first half yesterday is like, you're looking, Banners, you're the one who looks for growth every week in Jalen Hurts. That 2-minute drive to score a touchdown to Devonta Smith to end the first half was perfect. It was gorgeous. It's everything you look for your young quarterback who you want to ascend into a star to be. What
I find interesting is there were different shades of growth in both games. Yes. So the Vikings game was very much take what the defense is giving you, which is what a lot of people yelled at him for not being able to do, which is just pick them apart over the middle. And the Commanders game was, I don't know how, but it feels like Tom House made his arm stronger, but also the deep ball better. You guys
know I killed him for the deep ball last year.
Yeah, that shouldn't be able to happen.
He's had really nice throws downfield in both prior games this season, but I mean, yesterday looked like it was a college game. Like the Eagles were winning every single jump ball, every single tight throw down the sideline that was theirs. Like that was a game that that's like watching Ohio State at home against Northwestern. Ohio State goes up by 28, and they're going to cover. You never have to worry about that game being in doubt again. That's how I felt watching the Eagles. Everything, like for better or worse, it felt like everything went their way. We expressed, mostly me, we had expressed prior concerns about their lack of pass rushing ability. They kind of sort of got to Kirk Cousins from what I saw. I mean, yesterday was the Carson Wentz masterclass on how to not hold the ball too long, or else what will happen to you. But I mean, even still, 9 sacks is 9 sacks, and that's awesome to see for a defense. That gets the confidence up. Do I think they're going to sniff 4 sacks again in a game anytime soon?
Probably not.
Probably not. I think the Jaguars' offensive line's a little bit better than that. And I maybe when we play the Cardinals, I know we play the Cardinals at some point soon. They stink.
Couple weeks.
In general, I do still worry about the Eagles' ability to get pressure. I don't think that game is indicative of that problem being solved.
That was kind of shocking because it was very much a case of Kirk Cousins beating Kirk Cousins one week to just absolute domination by a 4-man rush the next. So I'm like, do I meet in the middle? I don't know which side to lean towards. There was a lot of coverage sacks in there.
I would say being the guy who loved Carson until he hated Carson, it was amazing. It was amazing to be on this side of the Carson Wentz experience. Because this was the Carson Wentz that made me love Jalen Hurts. Like I saw this guy holding onto the ball. I'd say 6 out of those 9 sacks were because of Carson Wentz being awful. Like
that's the number I had.
Yeah, and that's nothing against the Eagles. They took advantage of it. I think they're also extra hungry because they knew those opportunities were going to be there just because of how Carson Wentz plays.
I saw somebody tweet, I'm so happy to not watch Carson Wentz be my quarterback.
Yep. It felt so good, man.
It feels good.
Let's see. Next question. Is it time to admit the Eagles' preseason training camp strategy is objectively a good idea? And let's preface this by giving everybody a complete picture about, a snapshot of the bigger picture. In the Washington Commanders, I almost slipped up, boys. I almost had to put one in the jar. The fungible tokens, the football team, their secondary was battered. They had to start a young man with the last name of Wild Goose. And if you could tell me that he was going to be on an NFL roster before the season, I'll give you $5 because you're lying. The second part of that snapshot is the Buffalo Bills secondary, who started 2 rookies, a pick last year, and then a 2019 pick. There was combined 3 starts in their secondary. So this season is already showing a very, very trials and tribulations of injuries and how long a trial of attrition an NFL season can be. So, Max, I got to ask you first, was this just further proof that starters shouldn't play in preseason? Hell, why do we even have a preseason?
Kind of feels hard to argue against it. Like, I've always, I don't want to call myself old school, but like, Banners, I know you're old enough to remember the days when it was, the 4 preseason game era. Like, there was a very strict regimen on how starters went. You played maybe a quarter like less than a quarter in the first one, a quarter in the second one, first half in the third one, and the fourth one was all for the bubble guys. And I guess that's just kind of how my brain is wired to treat the preseason. I do think there is some merit to this. And to give credit to a much smaller podcast than ours, a little thing called Part of My Take on Barstool, no free advertising, whatever. But they had an interview with Julian Edelman a couple weeks ago where they asked his opinion on this, and he was firmly in the preseason matters camp. And a really good example of this week 1 was if you look at Seattle versus Denver. Denver did no preseason anything. Seattle played their starters, I think, more than anybody in the preseason, I believe, except I think the Panthers. And we saw what that was able to translate into week 1. I still think ultimately it's a pretty case-by-case thing, but I think in general you should absolutely be on the side of, I would rather my starters and the people that I know are fundamental foundational parts of this team, they should not be playing a lot. But I think there has to be some merit to running your routes in a live environment, making throws in a live environment, blocking somebody, that is only going 95% against you because they're a teammate, as opposed to someone who's going 110% because they're playing for a spot on an NFL roster. Stuff like that does matter. I think it's pretty case by case, but I think in general, the split should probably be like 30-70. You should be resting your guys.
Josh, what do you think? How does the Eagles kind of, what do you think? Is it time to admit the Eagles strategy is right or not?
Yeah, because I'm with Max. You guys know me. I've always been more of the old school guy, and I did have a lot of concern. Like, I'm against it, right? Like, when you hear all these reports about the 58-minute practice or whatever it was, where it's not just the preseason, it's the training camp. They're just handling these guys with kid gloves, and you just hear from all the ex-players how you need to hit someone and build up that scar tissue for the real season. And, obviously the 3 of us have never played NFL football, so of course I'm going to believe that.
For yourself, pal.
Yeah. but I mean, you did a great preface. I mean, I look at the Bills, and obviously I don't know what they were doing in training camp, but you can't help but look at that Eagles injury report and knock on all the wood you can. I mean, it's just Derek Barnett. It is literally just Derek Barnett, which through 3 games of football, that's insanity to me, that you have one guy on your entire roster injured. And as much like no disrespect to Derek Barnett, because I usually like to disrespect Derek Barnett, but never want to disrespect a guy in terms of a torn ACL. That's a very deep position that the Eagles have, where it was affordable to have that injury there. More or less, Banners, I stick to my guns there, where it is a deep position for him. So I do have to tip my cap to the Birds, because I think at this point, right, at week 3, you can kind of throw away, like, but by the time something happens in week 4, nobody's going to be saying, oh, man, well, if they had more training camp reps, if they had more preseason reps. Nah, like, you've played 3 games of football now. Training camp's over, and here the Eagles are. Like, obviously, I didn't go through everyone's injury report, but I find it hard to believe that there's a team that's more healthy than the Eagles in the entire NFL.
I think my only case would be it's really hard to argue this, because a lot of people more involved and smarter than I have come up with a way to make sure that their starters and the people they're paying the most money to make it to game 1. But I guess I think my argument would be strictly from the fan perspective, and just saying that the first couple weeks tackling wise and like fundamental wise and like
that is a good point.
There's a good amount of kind of, I don't want to call it slop, but like there's a lot of missed tackles, a lot of
the level, the quality of football across the NFL this past weekend compared to week one is like it's crazy. You know what I mean?
So,
like that week one almost felt like watching preseason with full start.
I
think that's where my argument. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say you're right though. I'm a big PFF guy over here. Going into this week, through 2 games, Eagles were worst rated in tackling in the entire NFL. And I just checked it again. They are now only 7th worst, but still, like that is a good point by you.
It's a huge jump. Yeah,
right, but
so I guess I'm not sure
right.
where. Yeah, I'm not sure where. Like, I think my argument kind of falls apart because it's not like that's a very inexact science. I can't tell you like, oh, hey, get the starters like this amount of snaps. Like, it's never going to be a finite number. So, like, I guess it's definitely a selfish argument being like, hey, if we could at least get them some amount of snaps, maybe make like week 1 a better product, maybe make week 2 a better product, and then all they have to do is look at me and say, okay, well, how many is that? We can let us do a cost analysis on how many snaps this could be, and then I look at them with fucking deer in a headlight look, and we'll let them be smarter, I guess.
I just want to say one thing. The Vikings are pretty good, but like, let's say the Eagles start the season going against the Rams week 1 and the Packers week 2. Like, maybe you don't get away with that. The Lions.
Why does our opinion on the Packers switch so much, so quickly?
Because they played 3 football games and then they're clearly still going to win games. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
this is I want to understand that more.
How did your opinion? You were saying the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. What were you saying before they played a football game? That's not
what I asked.
What do you mean?
The team that got blown out week 1, why are we then treating them as the second best team in the NFC?
Because Banners, whether you want to hear it or not, they are going to be the second or third best team in the NFC when the season's all over. The bad man's going to do bad man things. He just beat Brady in the battle of who the hell can we grab off our practice squad to play receiver.
Yeah, that's the Buccaneers
situation.
Good of a win. The Packers had all the receivers except Sammy Watkins. Packers had a full offense. They even had David Bakhtiari back. I had the Packers in that game. I texted you that, I'm pretty sure, Josh. Yeah. I love the Packers this week. I was very confident in their spot, but like they held on by a 2-point conversion after getting Bakhtiari back. Both healthy running backs, only receiver missing Sammy Watkins. The Bucs' 3 receiver set was Rashad Perriman, Scotty Miller, and Cole Beasley.
So like I'm the guy who hasn't been high on the Bucs since preseason.
All right, wait, real quick. I was looking at the Packers schedule today. You want to hear their next 4 games?
It's a cakewalk.
Yeah, exactly. The Packers are going to end up being one of the best teams in the NFC. Like, that's just because without looking at their schedule going into the season, I'm like, oh, who's Rodgers going to throw the ball to? Blah blah blah. You get 3 games of everybody in the NFL. You start looking at the Packers schedule, you're like, oh, okay, they're still going to put up double-digit wins. I know.
I'm so interested as to I know why. I just think it's funny because they beat the Bears and then they held on for a 2-point.
They got a free space against the Bears. That's the center square on a bingo board at home against the Bears on Sunday night. That happens once a year.
Yeah, they barely beat a decrepitly injured Bucs team. So if it was any other team, What do you mean now? I would whatever, dude. If this was any other team, I just wonder where your headspace would be at.
Well, any other team doesn't have the bad man, so you know.
I will admit that is a compelling counterpoint.
They might not have the bad man either, man. All right, who deserves the most credit? Max $1 million. Howie.
Past week. Oh, sorry. I'll let you finish.
Could be let's go 3-0. Let's go the whole big picture. Who deserves the most credit? Let's go whole big picture. Who deserves the most credit? Howie or Jalen?
Out of respect for Josh, I'll choose Howie Roseman because let's be honest, the Eagles have a solid 15-player core between both sides of the ball that are 27 and under. They have a guy that we're 3 weeks in. There's not a single person in the NFL world that'll tell you that Jalen Hurts isn't a top 5 MVP candidate. 3 weeks in.
It's top 1, man.
Let me preface 3 weeks in. So this is why I said I'll leave it for Josh. As a habitual Howie Roseman defender, I will repeat it again. The grass is not always greener on the other side, and sometimes the grass grows back really thick and healthy, and it feels really good when you walk on it barefoot. And that's the best analogy I've got for Howie Roseman being blades of grass right now. But you get my point. It could be a hell of a lot worse. You could be look at the Giants, for example, right? Like just really quick, they're on my brain because I have them I have some skin on them tonight. They're on in an hour. The Giants wasted 10 years because of incompetent general managing, right? Howie Roseman might have his, he's had his low moments. There's no way to deny it. At no point in Howie Roseman's tenure as Eagles general manager has he been incompetent level. He's made some bad decisions. But he's never been on the incompetent level you'll see with other teams. And if you want to throw that away for a chance of a decade of just absolute terrible, like hiring guys like Joe Judge and the like as your head coach, right? I'll take a guy like Howie Roseman who's maybe a little bit too sure of himself and gets it wrong sometimes over people who just have simply no idea what they're doing. So that's my pro Howie Roseman rant. If you gave me a third option, I actually would say Nick Sirianni is probably most to be credited through these 3 games.
Really?
I think he's done a great job. I think he's done a great job. I mean, I'm personally going to credit him with a good chunk of Jalen Hurts' development that I've seen. I think a lot of that is on Jalen Hurts. He's clearly a guy that works hard. Nick Sirianni has believed in him from the start, and he's done everything he can to make Jalen Hurts a better player. I don't know explicitly how much this next point will have truth to it, but you would have to imagine that as a head coach, your first lines of command down the flow chart are to your offensive and defensive coordinators. And I'm not ready to say Jonathan Gannon's the reason we're 3-0, but Jonathan Gannon's improvement is certainly a big reason why the Eagles are 3-0. And I'm going to have to give some credit of that to the head coach, because that's how these things work. You're the head coach, and the 2 guys who directly report to you are your offensive and defensive coordinators. I'm just going to leave it at that. The guy, your defensive assistants, your linebackers coach, your secondary coaches, those guys don't elevate the level of defensive coordinators typically. Could be wrong in this case, but logic would lead you to believe that your head coach getting the most out of everybody. I've seen him get the most out of his quarterback and his defensive coordinator, which were our 2 biggest question marks going into this season.
All right, Josh, let's hear it.
All right, I just want to put it out there that I don't give Jonathan Gannon any credit for this defense.
Really? He called a hell of a game against the Vikings.
What did he do? He didn't do anything, I don't think.
He really didn't do anything.
I don't think Jonathan Gannon has done anything.
He made sure that look, I'm not going to say Kirk Cousins played a good game. He threw everything he needed to make sure Justin Jefferson didn't torch them. And that was enough for me. I guess
I give him way more credit to Howie Roseman than Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, I do.
I'm not giving Jonathan Gannon a lot of credit.
Okay,
I'm just saying that he's better. He's shown me more in 3 games this year than he did in a lot of games last year.
One of my big takes from the start of the year was JG is going to get a head coaching job simply because of this defensive personnel, and it's going to be fun to watch next year. And that I'm feeling pretty good about that take. But anyway,
still letting Hassan Reddick get matched up. I don't even want to go into this.
Yeah. No need. There's no need. We're 3-0. We'll do that after a rough one, I'm sure. But guys, come on. I love Howie Roseman, but the one guy I love more than Howie Roseman is Jalen Hurts. Gentlemen, this has been a long time coming. You know what I mean? And through 3 weeks in the NFL, Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the NFL. Are you guys going to disagree with me?
Yes. I think there's one name that you can make a pretty strong argument for. Otherwise.
Lamar?
Yeah.
Lamar is. I mean, I know there was extraneous. I never know what that saying is. There are circumstances that were not in his control, but is Lamar Jackson 3-0 this year? No, I don't.
I'm just saying that from a purely quarterback perspective, he's the only guy that I think is comparable.
Well, I'll tell
I'm
you
going to
what.
mark this. I'm going to cut this out because if you're saying this, I don't want to hear ever again the QB that wins are not a QB stat. If this is your argument, I don't know if you've ever made that case in the past. I just want to cut this here and now.
Wins are a QB stat. Big believer in it. Big believer that some quarterbacks are winners, some quarterbacks are losers. Anyways, Jalen Hurts is a winner. Phillip Rivers is a loser, just for some scale. But fellas, I mean, this guy, Jalen Hurts, is just a natural-born winner. Everyone doubted him. Everyone hated him. Everyone said the whole, 2 years in a row with the same offensive coordinator or head coach, that whole thing. Oh, that's crap. Look at what is happening right now. And I think this last game was definitely his most impressive. He really didn't even need to use his legs. Let me see. I just pulled it up. Yeah, 9 attempts for 20 yards.
Yeah.
That's not the Jalen Hurts we know. And it's just because he didn't have to do it. He's comfortable back there. And I look, I think it is close. I'm just on my Jalen Hurts high horse. Like, I love Howie. Clearly, so much of this is bringing in A.J. Brown. Like, literally the juggle play where he said, hey, man, don't juggle this. I'm coming to you. Like, that is partly A.J. Brown, but the other part is Jalen Hurts, man. He just looks so much more comfortable. I'm going to cut myself off because I can just ramble and gush over my guy.
You're going to regret or get at old takes exposed on too hard.
I don't know what there is, man, because I called it week 3 against Cincinnati. Freaking when they tied the Bengals, I said, I'll tell you what, Jalen Hurts wouldn't have tied that team. And look, he is just, the sky's the limit for this guy. I really believe that, especially with this offensive line. He is an MVP candidate. The Eagles are going to have to pay him a crap ton of money at the end of the season, and I'm going to be loving it. And we can get there when we get there. But it's so perfect right now, fellas. And I'm going to enjoy it while I can, because I've seen how this can go the other way, right? With good old friggin' audience of one over there that the Eagles just sacked 9 times. I know we were all saying the same thing about him, but it is the season. It's the second season as the starting quarterback, and damn it, I'm going to ride it. And hey, I'm not talking about the Super Bowl. But you win it when you have a quarterback on the rookie contract that has a big leap in his second year starting. Everything is cooking the right way. But I will say this quick caveat, quick counterpoint here. Next season, it's going to be Howie Roseman's credit because, fellas, I think the Saints are one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be awesome.
If Jameis Winston keeps playing with all these herniated discs or whatever he's dealing with, actually, there's one other thing. I actually want to give a big slap on the wrist to Nick Sirianni. I would like to retract my compliment to him because handing the ball off to your 4th-string wide receiver on 4th and 1 is a mistake he did not learn from last year with Jalen Reagor.
No, that was a shade-taking call.
Learn.
I don't know, man. I got to give it to, just for the sake of, I could easily go Jalen Hurts here. I could easily go Howie here, but I think I got to just Nick Sirianni's the front runner for Coach of the Year.
Damn right.
Right now. Followed closely by Doug Peterson, which is just I don't know if it's like Twilight Zone. It's like one of those weird, calm Twilight Zone episodes that doesn't make you absolutely fear turning off the lights at night. You know what I mean? It's one of those ones just makes you think, just oh man, we might be in a simulation. Yeah. I think Nick Sirianni doesn't get enough credit for what he does for this team just because of how goofy the dude is, because he just he seems like one of your boys that is just cool with staying in the same job for 15 years and partying 4 days a week. You know what I mean? He seems like that dude who's just what's Nick up to? Nick's Nick, man. He's never going to change.
Part of it just because he looks like he's from around here. He genuinely looks like a dude you would see at an
wearing his Mike Quick
jersey. You would see at the beat, at the Jersey Shore, or you would see him I don't know, doing a tour in Harrisburg if you're there on a school trip or something. You know what I mean? He looks like a dude from the eastern side of Pennsylvania. He's at
He's at Gettysburg.
That's what I mean. He just looks like a guy who lives in the area where other Eagles fans live. I don't know how else to explain it. I think it might be part of the visor. The visor and the beard really bring it all together, I feel
the visor with the pens in it is huge. It's
the number of whoever's out for the season.
Yeah, Barnett.
I think it's going to be weird when I think it's going to be weird when he's worn players that worn player shirts and jerseys, then you have to start parting ways with them. I think that's a conversation that we're going to chuck down the road for when Jalen Hurts gets paid. But yeah, for right now, this core is together and it's the core's together and he's winning games. So you can wear whatever jersey you want. The gimmicks are winning. I got to give credit to the guy who right now is the NFL Coach of the Year after 3 games. And
Coach of the Year MVP.
Oh, Mickey, you're right. I know.
It's belief.
It's right. It's true. Let's do it, boys. This is our favorite segment for a reason. We're going to go around the NFL. We're going to have a ton of fun with it. Winners and losers. We're going to go losers first. Josh Safran, your loser for week 3 in the NFL. Give it to me.
Ooh, oh man, this is tough. I feel like there's a lot of different avenues to go down.
Yeah.
Who do I want to go with? All right, I will go with the loser of the week, and he doesn't deserve it, but I'm gonna go with Mitch Trubisky, man. Like, because Mitch Trubisky has been dunked on for so long that like I almost feel like because he's bad. We don't like picking losers that are like objectively bad, but this was the week that really did him into me. When you have like your rookie and first year receivers who are like, we're freaking open, man. Like just openly bashing your quarterback. When you have Kenny Pickett, who's everyone's darling, like just waiting in the league. It's over for the MVP. It is so over for the MVP. I feel like it was a year ago, early last year, where I kind of said something about how Mitch Trubisky will never start again. And like, I was wrong, but I should not have been wrong. He should never start again. I'm sorry. Like, I don't even think he's that bad, but just watching that game, which was like very winnable for any team with a serviceable quarterback, there were so many places I could go, but that one just stuck out to me. Mitch is my loser because, I'll circle back after you guys share yours.
Max, you're a loser of week 3.
This might feel a little harsh and is maybe not what you would expect from me, but talk about a splash of cold water in the face for the Detroit Lions, right? Like blowing multiple double-digit leads, one per half. Like you guys know I'm a huge Dan Campbell guy. You guys know I was a huge, I caped for the Lions hard when we broke down the line stuff, and I had to try and be the voice of reason that, hey, maybe they won't stink so bad this year. But I mean, this was an ultimate wake up call. Like you gotta earn the title. You gotta earn your way off dropping the title of loser, right? Like the Lions successfully did not drop the title of being losers when they blew a 10-point fourth quarter lead to the Vikings. That's just how it goes. Like, and you blow 2 leads like that in the same game, you're a loser.
And Max, I mean, I to piggyback on top of that one, because that was one I was thinking of too. Like, it's the ways they lost directly fall back on Dan Campbell too.
Yeah.
Like, so like
them not converting that 4th and 1 in Vikings territory. And you know what? That is like the classic sports radio debate where if he gets it, this is probably not an issue and he's hailed as a genius, but it didn't, and he blew up in his face. Like, I think that's probably objectively the right thing to do if you want to,
That's the thing though. Every call he made to go for it on 4th down by the numbers, like by the odds, it was the right call. It just so happened to not work out.
Yep.
But
one time.
I mean, is he their play caller too?
Yeah.
No, he just that falls to the head coach's decision.
Sure,
like it's
but
he's not there. He's not their offensive play caller.
Okay.
I thought he was.
No.
Really? Okay. He was last year.
No.
I mean, it's just you said it, man. It's culture too. Like, and he everything he does is like changing the culture, but you can't argue with like the results. It's still losing culture there.
I think Ben Johnson. I want to say he's their OC.
Right,
yeah, Ben Johnson.
I forgot about that because I knew he took over it. I knew he took over.
They don't have like a very complex passing game, but their run game and Deuce Staley is pretty complex.
You can't. The worst part is you can't even blame Jared Goff. It's nuts.
I know he's looking like a capable. I don't want to do this.
He's looking so normal.
Ooh. Losers. Let's go around the NFL before I get to my actual loser. It doesn't feel like there's a winner from this 49 and Broncos game, even though somehow some team won that game. Yeah.
I don't think the Broncos are the losers.
The Cardinals just keep getting buried. The Chargers keep getting more hurt with Rashawn Slater now out for the year.
Yeah, that is
Ken Dorsey from the Bills game, I think he is going to have to pay a substantial amount of money because of how badly he messed up that booth.
That was a tantrum. That was low key. That was high key embarrassing. You're a grown man, brother. I get it that emotions run high in sports.
You're not even a player,
man, brother.
It'd be embarrassing if it was a player, let alone an OC in the booth.
In the booth.
And then the Raiders fall to 0-3 with just
that was the other one that I was chewing. The Raiders,
team,
they're dead. They're already dead.
To a Titans team that should blow it up but keep the coach.
I don't think the Raiders are dead. That's why I didn't pick them as my loser.
The Raiders are already 2 games behind the Broncos, who look like shit.
I think they're dead enough to not make the playoffs.
What's that?
I think they're dead enough to not make the playoffs, but still finish around 500.
So that and that's why I say they're not dead, because I'm with you. I don't think they're going to be a team that's
Isn't
like
that
For me,
really
dead
considered
is
dead,
when your
though?
season is essentially over, and that
Yeah.
to me that qualifies.
Especially in that division, I think that can be considered dead. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, look, it is recency bias, but maybe that division isn't exactly what it's cracked up to be. They're all going to beat up on each other. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: if the Chargers are going to do that, well,
my real loser though is
myself.
My real loser is all of us at 8:15 tonight because we have.
Joke's on you, buddy. I've been on the Giants since Saturday.
Did you? I'm on the Cowboys tonight.
I'm not talking about the betting lines here. I think a smart man's on the. You have your lines on the game, but come on, man. The Danny Dimes and the Giants are 0-8.
Suck to watch. I sat through most of the 49ers last night. Nothing phases me.
Yeah, we are the loser in this Monday night game. The Daniel Jones and the Giants are 0-8 in primetime games, and a notification popped up with a preview from Danny Dimes, and he did not look thrilled to be playing football at this hour on a Monday night. So strap in, boys, because we're all going to watch it for a little bit, and it's going to be miserable. All right, winners of Week 3, Josh, who you got?
Oh boy, the winners of Week 3. It's tough, but you know what? I'm gonna give it to them. It's the Dolphins, and I didn't want to give it to them at first because I really believe that this is the game. All right, I think the game was more of a Bills loss than a Dolphins win, but still, for the Dolphins to win that game is just so huge for their entire season, in my opinion. Yes, Tua may have played with a concussion. Yes, their punter may have had somehow only the second most iconic L of the NFL
Bills
season.
Winning for that to become immortal.
But everybody like the Bills are just unanimous, like, oh, they're a juggernaut this year. They're running away with it. And the Dolphins and the Eagles are the only two legitimate undefeated teams left in the NFL. You got to give it to the Dolphins. And there's a couple different, places you could go, but Tyreek Hill is just the ultimate game changer in the NFL. Like, I gave Mahomes more credit for Tyreek Hill than I should have. I think Tyreek Hill just really changes the way offenses or changes the way defenses prepare for the Dolphins. And then you match that up with Jalen Waddle. Dolphins are scary, man, no matter who's throwing them the ball. I don't want to give Tua any credit. I really don't. I'm sorry. I'm still anti-Tua, but I give it all to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Dolphins, they earned my respect. That's why they're the winners. They earned my respect. I don't like them. I don't want to like them. But damn it, they beat the Bills. I have to respect them now.
Max, who's your winner?
Man, I mean, it's got to be Doug P. and the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how hurt Justin Herbert was. You guys know I love the Chargers, not as much as Josh, who picked them to win the Super Bowl, but we don't have to talk about that. I love the Chargers almost as much as Josh. And, if you're going to play Justin Herbert, you do that under the guys that you think you can compete for that game and you can win that game with, off the shoulders of your franchise quarterback without his top receiver.
Yeah.
I think this could equally go hand in hand with the Chargers loss because I think Brandon Staley hit a new low in terms of donkey brains this past game. And he's had some pretty big donkey brain moments in the past. But for a Jaguars team who just shut out a division rival, a team that they have kind of sort of owned in the last couple of years, and I don't want to say it was a free space win for them because there are no free space wins for the Jaguars, but to be able to come off a performance like that, travel to the West Coast and kind of hold up your end of the bargain when, all the talk starts to be, the Jaguars are going to win this game. The Jaguars are going to smoke the Chargers because they don't have, Justin Herbert's not going to play. I like the Jaguars. That's what all the talk became Friday to Saturday. And for the Jaguars to go out there and so thoroughly dominate that team, Justin Herbert doesn't play defense. Keenan Allen doesn't play defense. Chargers were down J.C. Jackson. J.C. Jackson does not stop the Chargers from scoring 37 points. Doesn't stop the Jaguars from putting up 37 on the Chargers. They went to L.A., and they absolutely smacked the Chargers around. And if you're looking at the AFC right now, I almost pulled the trigger on it, but I was too much of a B word to put it on the graphic. Josh knows I wanted the Jacksonville Jaguars as my AFC South champions. And man, I will never forgive myself if I didn't stick to my guns and put that down for the world to have historical records of should it come true. I'll never forgive myself.
My winner is Dan Orlovsky.
Yes,
Now,
so good.
Now there is something worse than what we saw from Dan Orlovsky. And anybody who dude, just the quarterback situation in San Francisco, just down it goes, because not only I don't even know what to say about that. Like, Jimmy G, man, come on, brother. The only reason it wasn't a pick six was because it was a safety. Like, it's not even the lesser of two evils. Like, you got bailed out by another evil. So it's like, does that make it the best of three evils? I don't even know what that means. Like, come on, dude. Whatever. So Dan Orlovsky, you got bailed out, brother. Continue being Matthew Stafford's big fan and recognize that you are now no longer in that conversation, because Jimmy G took that from you.
Before we move on, I assume you guys couldn't have missed the resurfacing of the Dan Orlovsky safety clip, right? We all saw that today.
It's awesome.
It is so bad. I did not remember.
Worse than Jimmy G.
My memory from 2008 was that, like, yeah, he stepped out and like his foot hit it. He was getting chased by Jared Allen. I can remember all that. My man was both feet. My man was both feet on the end line and ran about a solid 10 to 15 yards, both feet on the end. I couldn't believe how bad that was. I would have been inclined to agree with you when I saw the Jimmy G thing last night happen. I saw that I had the 49ers. I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. They actually just made out like a bandit. They forced a punt off the safety kickoff. I'm like, oh my God, I might have just made out like a bandit off this, right? And they ultimately lost, whatever, not a big deal. But I think if you had asked me this question last night at 11:30 when that play happened, I'm like, oh my God, this Jimmy Garoppolo one is so much worse. I don't know if I can agree with that after seeing the Dan Orlovsky.
I think the Orlovsky one is like worse in like a funny way. I think the Garoppolo one is just like, dude, this is just like an overall terrible display, because it was going to be a pick six, and he bailed himself out. That was like the ultimate
low light of the Lions' winless season too. Like,
yeah,
I guess it's harder for this random week 3 game. You know, that was terrible, right? Like, it's not even like this was like a great game that everyone's going to remember. Like, that was just like the ultimate poop cherry on top of the poop cake. The Lions 0-16 season was that Dan Orlovsky.
You're exactly right. I think the Orlovsky one still takes the cake for that reason. Because when it's like, oh, how bad was the 0-16 season for the Lions? Oh, you want to know how bad it was? Boom, you got that.
I can sum it up for you in about 9 seconds. Just watch this Dan Orlovsky clip.
Yeah.
Ethan, you are right. Anything involving Jared Allen is the best part of anything. Moving right on into a rapid fire. We're going to do main event part 2. We're going to rapid fire this. Oh, the Phillies backed their way into the playoffs, and they lost a game in their pursuit of that third wild card spot. They're now only a game and a half up from the Brew Crew, as opposed to 2.5 games up. Max, do these Phillies back their way into the playoffs in that third wild card spot in the NL?
I'm going to hold strong. I'm going to hold the lines. I'm going to say they make it. I still will stick by what I said a couple weeks ago, that give me the Phillies in the first round against anybody who is an NL East team. Right now, it would be the Cardinals. Nothing would make me happier than ruining this story, storybook fairy tale Cardinals end of the season with Pujols and everything. Nothing would make me happier. It would be some nice some nice vindictive energy.
Because they've either swept or only lost one game of the season series against the Cardinals as well.
So absolutely. That's what I mean. Like, I love that matchup for the Phillies. It's played out. It's played out the way that I don't want the Phillies to see the Mets or the Braves, right? Like, it's been parallel with that. I would love if the Cardinals or the Brewers. I don't think are the Brewers even are they even mathematically able to win that division? I guess they are.
No,
they're not. Okay, well, whatever. I would love to see the Cardinals in the first round. I don't know what we call the baseball playoffs anymore. The first round of the baseball playoffs. That's my preferred team. So yes, I think the Phillies back in there, and I think that there'll be a classic case of like, Cardinals, they've been killing everybody. Pujols hit his 700th. The Phillies have been slumping. Like, if you're trying to look at it unobjectively, doesn't that just seem like the series that everybody will gloss over as a Cardinals win, and the Phillies maybe kind of shock the baseball world? Maybe I'm
just to lose in the next round. Josh,
are these Phillies in the next round?
Yeah. Not just are these Phillies backing their way into the playoffs, Josh?
Yeah, I'm standing strong also. I actually don't think they backed their way in either. I mean, I think they got the Nationals, and then I think they're going to face an Astros team that's going to rest everyone. Like, I think they'll win. I think they'll win their way into the playoffs, believe it or not. But ultimately, I don't think it matters at all. I think they're going to 2 games and out, no matter who they play. I'm done.
So,
Sorry.
Josh, right back to you. Actually,
Be a
then,
little
where do you
faith.
feel this negativity? Where do you are you listening to this negativity towards Bryce Harper for this September play?
You want my honest, blunt answer?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
If the Eagles were 1-2, I would.
Dude, that is perfect.
A true child of sports radio, Josh. That clip right there should be your resume for every job you apply to.
That's incredible.
I don't, and it's 100% because the Eagles are 3-0.
It's valid, but I
straight
mean, they're going to get there, and that can all disappear with. I'll say this: 4 good games in the playoffs can totally make up for the last 25 games he's played.
No, Max, do you feel it? You're hearing this negativity?
I haven't seen so much directed at Bryce Harper in general. I've seen that he's clearly slumping in this month. I feel like the negativity is more so just about the general state of the team and how things look really good in July and August, and September definitely not so much. But I think that all kind of does stem from your best player. Like it's always easy to start at the guy who gets paid the most and then work your way down. Nobody's going to blame. I can't even use Matt Vierling was going to be my example, but he's literally won the Phillies 2 games in the past 5 days by himself.
Love him.
So it's a lot easier to blame Bryce Harper than it is. I don't know. You guys know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
I'm going to blame short-term memory loss because I feel like a lot of people forget that he broke his thumb, which is a very important thing when you swing a baseball bat.
And it's like a torn elbow still, and
yeah, a lot of people seem to forget that his main injuries. It feels like a lot of people still think he got hit in the face with a baseball, like that. Like, if you surveyed like 75% of the population of the Delaware Valley, like, hey, like, why do you think Bryce Harper's out? Like, oh, he got hit in the face with a baseball, right? Like, his face is broken. Like,
the Padres got him.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. The West Coast got it fingered. Yeah,
that West Coast trip really screwed the Phils.
Yeah. So I think the more depressing part of what I was saying though is I really don't think he's going to be too much of a factor even if we do make it in the playoffs. I think that I know I think that thumb is really kind of coattailed his season, unfortunately. That combined with when and if Castellanos comes back, I don't know, whatever.
exactly.
I could talk baseball all day, but it's been a long day. I don't feel like getting any more sad. Coming back around, last couple ones. Where do you think the Eagles suffer their first loss, Max? Where looking at this season? I know we kind of teased it earlier in the show.
I'll pull up the schedule. I'll pull up the schedule.
We teased it earlier in the show. It's gonna be a favorable couple matchups when you look at these betting lines for the Eagles the next couple weeks. So just take a look at the schedule for me, and Max, tell me where you think this first loss comes from for the Birds.
Oh no! I'm gonna say it.
They're gonna lose next week. Don't say that.
Not the Jaguars. The Eagles have a horrific franchise record playing at Arizona. A lot of demons there. Nothing screams the Eagles will spite me personally by losing to number 1 fake sharp Cliff Kingsbury and number 1 short quarterback Kyler Murray. I hate to say, you guys know I absolutely have no faith in the Cardinals and think they're bad and fraudulent, but that game screams to me 4-1. I hate to say it.
Yeah, looking at the schedule, the Eagles are going to be favored in every single game this season. Just let that sink in. Barring an injury to Jalen Hurts, they are going to be favored in every game this season, which is nuts.
Is the Green Bay game at home?
Green Bay game is at home.
It is at home.
So there you go. They're going to be favored in every game this season.
So they'll get what do you think that line is right now? I think it's 2.5 for the Eagles.
3.5 Eagles.
I think it's more. I go up to 4.
People like you who worship Aaron Rodgers exist in the betting world. That's why that line won't be.
All right, fair. Then I'd smack the Eagles. But no, they lose to the Cardinals, Max. I'm totally with you. Everything about that game, and this is a feel fact. Eagles are really bad against running quarterbacks. Just feel like my entire life they've been bad.
It's like Alabama. Even if the stats don't back it up, the only way to beat Alabama, running quarterback.
Yeah, but no, I'm with you. I think they
also really quick, just to further cement this, I didn't even look at their next game. I made it literally Jaguars, Eagles. Their next game is the Cardinals game. I didn't even look at the next game, which is at home against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. That Cardinals game is the biggest look-ahead spot I've ever seen in my life. The Cardinals will probably get killed by – who are they playing this week?
They better not. Panthers.
Okay, they're at Seattle.
Oh.
They'll probably, that game will suck, and somehow they'll beat the Eagles when it'll be like
I
the
don't know,
Chiefs
he's gonna run around
where Eagles money line is what ruins everybody's day.
Yep.
Just like Chiefs just did. So give me the Cardinals in a stupid game that we all hate to watch, and the Eagles make a ton of mistakes in. And I hate that I'm predicting this, but that game just screams loss to me with Cowboys at home on Sunday night the next week.
I actually think it's this coming week versus the Jags. I think this is one of the ones that's kind of like a shocking game.
The toughest game they have, but Jags going East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, a lot of traveling in the last 2 weeks, Banners.
That's a young team that doesn't. I don't know. There's just something about it. Like this. I don't know why. I feel like this is like a newer team that has a lot of new blood where like the Cardinals game doesn't really, that kind of feels like a blowout to me just because all the demons.
And that's why the Eagles will lose, because it feels like a blowout. The Cardinals stink.
I'm so sure of it.
Well, I think all the demons left with previous coaches and players. Like nobody was around for those demons. Like I don't even think anybody was on the roster the last time one of those situations pops up. Like this is a guy to me that like Doug Peterson sat out a year, was already a good coach, sat out a year, had time to mull over and just talk to the bunch of coaches on how to be a better coach, realized his mistakes, came back, has a better, younger quarterback, and knows the environment he's going into. I could very well be wrong, and in which case I think it comes down to either the Colts or the Packers, and that's a long way off in the schedule.
No, they'll lose before then. This Eagles team is good, but they're not on the table good. I'll be honest.
I really don't know. I think it's either the Jaguars or the Cardinals. I think it's either the Jags or the Cardinals, and then I don't think they lose up until either the Colts or the Packers, because the Commanders again, the Texans, the Steelers, and the Cooper Rush and Noah Brown led Cowboys.
I'll be honest, I'm uber confident against the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence not been the best quarterback when he has a negative game script against him. I think that it's very fair to expect a negative game script for the Jaguars when the Eagles are at home. The Eagles have shown they've been a better team than the Jaguars. Jaguars have been a pleasant surprise. I obviously am cheering for them on the side because of Doug, but I think if you're trying to look at this game objectively, that's a tough ask for the Jaguars to put up a third really impressive performance in a row in a very hostile road environment against a team that's better than them.
I'd agree. All right, can we just give Christian Kirk props for becoming? No, nobody here expected Christian Kirk to become a really.
I did not shit on that contract. Christian Kirk was wildly misused by number one idiot Cliff Kingsbury, and I'll be honest. I think he's performed a little better than I thought, but I think that 4 years, $72 million. I did not think that was nearly as insane as the Twitter reaction where Christian Kirk just broke wide receiver contracts. I didn't think that was a fair assessment at all. I think it was an overpay, but I think the Jaguars took a gamble on a guy that is still young, still has a lot of miles left on him, and has shown flashes of being a pretty good receiver, but was
and that they had plans for
most of the time. So yeah, and let's be honest, the Jaguars needed to take that shot. It could have not paid off, and we could have not been having this conversation. But Christian, he had all the tools. He was big, fast, good at the point of the catch. Just was.
This guy loves Christian Kirk. He's been in the lab.
I think he's underrated. I drafted him in a lot of my fantasy teams under the guys that. Why would I not take a flyer on a true, legit number one wide receiver on a team that will be throwing a lot in the 7th, 8th round? It's paid off big for me. So I don't think that I was Christian Kirk's going to be an unquestionable top 10 receiver like he has been through 3 weeks, but I certainly did not denounce that as the worst contract of the offseason.
I've been snake bitten by being burnt by James Robinson last year and not taking him this year because of that. Last question here, boys. 1-word answers. Who should Eagles fans be rooting for tonight on Monday Night Football, Josh?
The Giants.
Max.
The Giants.
Love it. Giants clean sweep. That means good things for the Eagles.
Back, baby. 2 of the last 3 undefeated teams. It's good for the brand. Really good for the brand.
I'd much rather have
everybody knows we're for the brand here.
Yep.
Any tap outs here, boys, before we get out of here?
I was just gonna, further clarify that if you like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and you don't listen to their podcast, you'll probably like the podcast. I feel like it's the least I can do for how good of a time I had last week. And they were very conscious. Like Rob was obviously from Philly. The other two guys, they're not from here at all. They're not really into sports, but they totally got it. By the time they had a couple shots and then they were yelling out the Eagles chants with us, like it was a really, really cool experience.
Josh, what do you got?
Big professional news, fellas. Your boy has accepted a full-time job in moving up to Rochester, New York, hosting sports shows, card breaking. It's a whole new world I need to get into, but just big news for me. I am off and getting paid finally.
Congratulations,
my brother.
Thank you.
I got too much going on right now to really think about anything.
Banners, let the people in on a project that you're allowed to tell them.
Thank you, Ethan.
Give them some. Where can they be looking out for you
about? That I'm allowed to tell them about.
I'll just remind you guys. Tell something you're not allowed to tell them if you want, but I'm not going to get them.
I'll just remind everybody about Inside the Birds. I direct and produce the pregame show every game day, every Eagles game day at Rivers Casino. We were back kind of away from everybody last year in our set. It was kind of sectioned off for us, but this year they got us right out in front of Jack's Bar and Grill on the casino floor. So we're shooting back into the casino this year, so it makes for a really nice backdrop. And the program
it's on a different level this year.
Yeah, the program audio is being fed back into the casino floor with tables, with bar service from Jack's Bar and Grill. So if you're looking for a good time for the pregame show and you happen to also like gambling, whether that be sports gambling or regular gambling, Rivers Casino, Inside the Birds. It's a great time. One of the only things like it out there. You won't get another experience like it. So come on down, and maybe I'll tell you about some other projects I have in the works.
Ask Banners about the Phillies when he's filming Inside the Birds. Get distracted.
Yeah, please. I'll freak out, and the production will go to hell. It's going to be it for us here on Trust the Process Live. If you weren't able to catch us live, and I say live with an unexclamatory
you're just saying you're not excited about it. You're not exclaiming
exactly. I'm not allowed to. I can't exclaim it anymore legally. So if you weren't here with us live, you can check us out wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, anywhere in between. Oh, man. Either way, we're going to catch you next week, Philly. We'll see you. Keep it easy. And maybe we'll be talking next time about a 4-0 Eagles team. Who knows? See you, Philly.
Well.
Oh, as always, we're brought to you by Minded Fillers.
Yeah.
And everything's
always Philly.
And if you're going to be Eagles Jaguars, look for me. I'll be in that shirt that I had on tonight.
I love it. See you, Philly.